Hi, I'm Kimmy with On William Street, and we are here to help you become a more confident quilter from the piecing to the quilting and everything in between. This week, I'm going to show you a really fun quilting motif that you can make that's perfect for beginners or those who are more advanced. So the motif I'm going to show you today is a modified version of the ribbon candy. We're going to go ahead and put it in some diamonds. I'm actually going to go on a little bit of a field trip. I'm going to take you in. I'm going to show you how to stitch it out on the long arm. But keep in mind, this design you could definitely do on your domestic as well. You're going to mark it the same way. And you would actually, it's stitched in rows, so you're going to stitch it through the rows the same way as well. You would just be moving the quilt instead of the long arm. So if you don't have a long arm, don't feel like that means you can't complete this. It's totally a beginner-friendly design that would work great on your domestic as well. So let's head in and we'll get it quilted. Okay, so I have my quilt loaded and ready to go for this design. And this one will definitely work on your domestic as well. You don't have to do it on a long arm, but I do have my long arm, so I'm going to do it on this today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you how to mark out the design first. Just keep in mind that when we're marking this, we're putting in the grid system. We're not actually marking the lines that we're going to stitch. We're just marking out the sections that we're going to use to stitch those lines inside of. They're going to go away at the end and you're not going to see them. So don't stress if a line isn't perfect or if things don't line up exactly. It's just a grid work. For that, I'm going to be using an air erase pen. So this one is just going to disappear on its own. And the reason that this one is going to work for me is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark a section across, stitch across, roll the quilt, mark a section, stitch it. So this is going to work no problem. If I was doing this on a domestic, however, I would definitely pick a different pen because you don't want to spend all that time marking things out and only to go back later and have it be gone. So I'd probably use either, there's water erase pens, you can do heat erase pens, chalk, whichever one you prefer, whichever one you like that's more of a permanent that you will then have to remove at the end. Just make sure, my disclaimer anytime we talk about marking up quilts is to spot test. Don't ever trust that something's going to absolutely work perfectly. Make sure that you spot test everything because the last thing you want is lines that don't come out of your quilt. So let's go ahead and show you how you want to mark out this design. So with this design, what we want is we want to mark out diamonds, and they're going to be short this direction and long this direction, and that's just going to make it a lot easier to stitch out. If you're doing it on a domestic or you want it the diamonds going the other direction, you want to make sure to load your quilt the opposite way, or if it's on a domestic, it doesn't really matter which way that you mark out the diamonds. So to make sure that we get an actual diamond, I'm actually going to go ahead and just use the blocks that are here. So first I'm going to show you that. I'm going to go down one block and over two blocks. So I'm going to go from the corner of the top left corner to the bottom right corner of the second block over, and I'm just going to go ahead and put my line. Then I'm just going to move over here after I mark that line, and I can mark the next one again. Down one, over two, if you're looking at it as a grid, or just the bottom right corner of this second block. From there, I'm not going to worry about doing any more yet because it rolls off where I've got on my frame. And then I'm just going to come and mark the opposite direction as well. So from the bottom left corner of that first block to the top right corner of the second one. And there isn't anything more to mark there, but then we can go down to this one, bottom right corner to the top left corner, mark that in, scoot over here and mark the next one. Again, like you can see, this isn't necessarily perfect, but remember, we're just using these as a guide. It's not going to be the actual stitch line. Okay, so now after I've marked that direction, now I'm going to come down, I'm going to go on the bottom here, and I'm going to mark it again, and that's going to make it so our diamonds aren't quite as big. If we were to go with just the one set, they would be huge. So now you can see what we have here is we have a nice diamond here, half diamonds, moving over. So we do our block. So I'm going to start in this corner, skip one, start in this corner. If I don't have blocks to work with here, yeah, that's better. If I didn't have blocks to work with here to get my marks in, you can certainly use your ruler. Like this one right here has a 60 degree, a 30, 45, and 60 on there. So I could say, okay, well, I want it to be a 60 degree angle with my diamonds, or I want it to be, I don't want a 45, I know that. So with this shape, you're probably going to want the 30 degree. So you could definitely line the 30 degree up along there, draw the line however you needed it to, and you're going to see that that's going to be about the same a line as what we have here. And then you could just move down on the edge of any block you have and use that same 30 degree to mark the diamonds across. So hopefully you can see them here. It's hard to make them darker, but you've got the diamond all laid out. And I'll make sure to put a image of this in the blog post, so if it's hard to see here on the video, you'll be able to see how to mark this out all the way across the quilt. And then we're just gonna go to this next one, and I'm just gonna take a few minutes to finish marking out this section, and then we'll come back and start stitching it. So now that I have my diamond grid marked in place, I'm ready to go ahead and stitch. And this is really just gonna be your ribbon candy, but you're just gonna make it fill the space. So I'm gonna just go back and forth to fill in this diamond here. When I come to the center here, I'm gonna go ahead and go back and forth, get bigger, skinnier to fill this diamond. I'm just gonna work my way all the way across. Then I'm gonna come back and do the top one, but I'm gonna go ahead and do this first full row first, and then I'll come back and worry about the top row. After I get to that, then you'll see that I'm just gonna come down here and move over. So let me just show you real quick. I've got my machine ready to go. I've already taken a few stitches to secure my stitches, and we're just gonna make our ribbon candies. Now that I've to this corner, we just keep going, make them start out small and get bigger. All right, and then you're just gonna go ahead and continue all the way down the row. So now I'm going to go ahead and go backwards. I'm going to fill in these half diamonds here along the top. So what you're going to do is just going to kind of fill the same way. Do small ones here and big ones here. Now you can either go ahead and stop at your ribbon candy up at the top, or you can pretend like that's the halfway mark and go up above off the top of the thing, so it looks like it's flowing off of the quilt. And that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. It's going to look like it's the same pattern, but it's just falling off the edge. So I will go ahead and come around and then come up. I'm not necessarily going to try to make the whole shape, otherwise I'd hit my leader up here. But you can kind of get the general idea of not necessarily seeing the top of those curves on the quilt itself for this backwards row. So you can see that I'm not worrying about going all the way up, but even just by sending those tips off the side, when you close it up, it's going to look like just like the other sections later on after you take the quilt off the frame. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this out, and then we'll go back to the next row. So I went ahead and did one more row across, did the third row, and you can start to see the shapes that are coming out in that. So even though the diamonds that I've marked in have started to fade and you can't really see them as well, you can see that it's still creating those shapes with the ribbon candy, and it's a really fun texture and movement that it creates across the whole top of this quilt. So I'm going to go ahead and keep stitching and finish this one out. If you have any questions on quilting out this motif, definitely leave a comment or send us a message, and we will, do our best to kind of help you make sure that you understand it. You can head to the blog post to see the marked path a little bit easier. If it wasn't quite as easy to see on the video, I'll have some diagrams and some photos there in the blog post so that you can see it laid out really nicely. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified each week when we post our new videos. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get access to our subscriber library with lots of fun projects, and you'll also be notified of any coupons or events or things that we have going on as well. And we will see you next week.